overall health statuses entering week 3. Jeff, you're going to be helpful on that. And, of course, practice gets set tomorrow, so we'll have more coming up next week on that. And just in terms of where Isaiah likely might be trending, Kyle Van Noy's timeline, Jair Alexander, so on and so forth. And then, of course, it's never too early to take a quick sneak peek ahead at what's supposed to be a blockbuster game if it lives up to the expectations, and that is Ravens-Lions under the primetime lights in Baltimore 6 days from now, coming up at the bank. But, Jeff, would love to get your opening thoughts on a game where you can go in a bunch of different ways, right? You could one, rejoice in the bounce-back effort that was made, and then you can also maybe take the pessimistic approach and realize that that's probably an opponent that's going to be picking in the top 5 come April.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those can't win games if you're the Ravens. You blow them out, and it's like big whoop. That's what you should have done. You struggle, and it's, wow, maybe this team isn't as good as we thought it was. So, they did what they had to do. They handled business. They took care of business. I know the big word last week was maturity after both Marlon Humphrey and John Harbaugh basically said that the defense lacked maturity. Yeah. And I think it was a mature performance, right? And I say that because there was so much yapping out of Cleveland, trash talk, complaints about the ceremony, other stuff about wallowing in the Bills' loss and this, that, the end of the world, all that. And I just think they put their heads down and went back to work. And I think that was important. It was a mature performance. They took care of business. They didn't get flustered when things weren't going their way offensively in the first half. It's good to see the defense and special teams make some plays. That's kind of what's been lacking in the past when the offense has struggled. It's where's the defense and special teams to pick them up. They picked him up early. All in all, it was a solid performance, the type of performance a potential Super Bowl contender should have against one of the lower tier teams in the league in Cleveland.
And as we welcome in our guy, Cole Jackson, Cole, we just gave the rundown, obviously, of what's coming up over the next hour or so. But, 48 hours later, if you will, ish, your thoughts on that week 2 back, really bounce back performance, call it, a couple days later.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some frustrations. There's still some things this team needs to work through. But, you got to remember it's week 2. Part of the whole don't peak early thing, right? Like there's going to be some things to work with. I think a lot of the frustration is, around some of the trenches. I feel like every offseason we talk about, all right, we're just going to shore up the O-line, get some edge rushers in here. And I feel like it's been kind of Groundhog Day for the last few off seasons, and it still feels like we're kind of in that part. So it seems to be a lot of frustration coming off a 41 to whatever it was, 17, was it 10, 17 finish there? Yeah, 17. So, I mean, it was a shellacking, and this is a team that has historically given the Ravens a lot of trouble. It's an AFC North matchup. These aren't gimmies by any means, even when it is a team like the Browns. I think the big thing was, and you kind of nailed it, the defense and the special teams making those explosive plays in lieu of the offense. That's what I felt really good about when I kind of went back through it. I also think we saw some really positives, creating those explosive plays in the air, seeing a guy like DeAndre Hopkins step up, Devontae Walker step up, Tylan Wallace step up, role players stepping up to make the big plays when kind of your stars are getting bogged down, whether it's due to the O-line or whatever it may be. So I thought that was really exciting, kind of an underrated part that I didn't appreciate on game day because I was letting myself get down into negative town a little bit.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Those are some
angry, Cole. You look angry tonight.
Oh man, so Amanda's gone she's in Toronto for the week, so I got the girls solo. Coming off a wedding weekend where I'm struggling 48 hours later. And so it's like the worst possible combination of things. Couldn't get my VPN off. I think Scarlett's still awake upstairs. I don't know. If you see a little person come in and tackle me, Just
our group message is going off on Saturday. Jeff, we didn't know, right? Unbeknownst to us, that he had already been getting after it.
I know.
Friday, I believe, in a wedding weekend. I thought it was starting Saturday. No, it had already begun, hadn't it? There.
Yeah,
I'm
pregame.
I'm too old for this.
Well, those are some macro thoughts, aside from the last 45 seconds, related to the game itself. And we will, of course, look ahead, like I mentioned, to week 3. But before we do, let's kind of go around the horn here, Jeff, starting with you, and dig into some of the micro in terms of what you liked from Sunday against Cleveland.
Yeah, there was a lot of things, and I touched a little on the defensive and special teams contributions. I'll let I'll stay in my lane here, let you guys hit on a couple things. But the one thing that's when I removed myself a little bit from the game and looked at the snap counts and all that, the one thing that made an impression on me is there were times on Sunday that on the field at the same time for the Ravens defensively were first-round safety Malachi Stark, second-round outside linebacker Mike Green, sixth-round defensive lineman Aeneas Peebles, fourth-round inside linebacker Teddy Buchanan, and undrafted cornerback Kenyon Martin, who played over 20 snaps. That is a lot of youth playing on a team with Super Bowl aspirations. So, it wasn't just garbage time where those guys just kind of came in to get some snaps. Ruben Lowry kind of played in garbage time. Those guys, Teddy Buchanan played a ton, and obviously Malachi Starks is an every down player, and Mike Green played a lot once Kyle Van Noy went down. I think that's a huge sign. These guys need to grow up fast. They chose to fill some of their holes defensively with youth through the draft. And I think those guys really represented themselves well. And if you're looking at future signs and good things that you want to look at and see how they play out, these guys getting meaningful snaps this early in the season, that's huge for them. They're developing these guys on the fly. These guys look like they're up to the task. And it was a really nice performance by a lot of the young defensive players. Maybe there wasn't a splash play by any of them, but they did what they had to do. They're learning on the job, and they certainly look like, they were as advertised. They look like they belong. And I think that's a huge sign for the future for the Ravens.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it in the preseason where we were seeing some of these UDFAs step into pretty big roles and then eventually having 3 of them on the defense make the final 53. And I remember a comment I made back then was, this team, this coaching staff is focused on merit. They don't really seem to care about things like where they were drafted, when they were drafted. They're not really making the rookies earn it like I think we've heard a narrative around in the past. A guy like Peoples, I think, is a perfect example like that. He's playing a lot and playing in some critical moments, and he's playing extremely well. There's a metric out there. I should have sent it to you, Bobby, that showed rookie splash plays, and Peoples is third in the NFL among rookies in terms of splash plays for defensive players. So I think stuff like that's really exciting.